All right, everybody. So you are going to create a drawing using linear perspective. Go back to that slide if you need to. This is like a finished version. So you're going to start with the horizon line, and that's kind of your eye line. Make it a little higher than halfway through the paper. And then I'm going to put my vanishing point in the very center. The vanishing point is where all the lines will recede into space towards. So I'm drawing a converging perspective line for where the, what are they called? The poles, like what was called? The electric poles or whatever, how high they go up and how low they go down. And you notice that using 1-point perspective makes your drawing mathematically more accurate. It makes everything get smaller as it goes further from your eye and closer towards the horizon line and closer towards the vanishing point. So you'll notice these telephone poles, that's what they're called, get smaller as they get closer towards that horizon line. They get closer together as well. And the converging perspective lines help you to make sure they go back into space at the same increments. So I erased those converging perspective lines that I started with, and now I'm just kind of adding the top and the bottom to these telephone poles. Now I'm going to draw the railroad in the center. Now this is going to be practice for your own landscape that you're going to create, so it will help you kind of get in the swing of using 1-point perspective to draw. So I started with the railroad, kind of the tracks on the left and right, and now I'm drawing the railroad kind of wooden planks. I started with a skinny kind of, it's moving so quickly, a skinny kind of line rectangle for the bottom piece of the wood plank. And then I made like a larger rectangle for the top of the wood plank. So by drawing the bottom and the top, it makes these wooden planks look more three-dimensional. Now, when you're drawing these, it's hard to tell which is the plank and which is the space between them. So if it's helpful, you can kind of shade the planks as you go, so you can tell the difference between the space in between and the plank itself. My ruler is kind of bent. Some of you might have that issue as well. If you don't have a ruler at home, please use like a book or anything with a straight edge, really. So these, just like the telephone poles, get closer together and smaller as they move back into space. It's just like if we were looking out at a real landscape or a real railroad track. It gives the illusion of space in your drawing by making things closer together and smaller as they move away from you. Now, some people are really precise with this. They measure exactly how much space between them. You can just eyeball it. The big thing is to make sure that they're overall getting smaller as they move away from you or away from the bottom of the paper. Now you can't see it. It got cut off, but I drew a little sun in the top right corner. So if you can practice putting in some value into this drawing too, pretending as if the light source is the top right. So I'm kind of shading the bottom of that pole, and then it's getting lighter towards the center of it. On these wooden planks, the bottoms of them I'm making darker in value. They appear as if they're lower than the top of the plank. And it'll start to take shape a little bit more. Notice I put in a straight line for that plank as well, where it goes straight down. It's not going back into space. And then I added some wood grain on the top a little bit to give it some texture. The next wooden plank, I'm shading it in. This is going to help you kind of see what is the space in between and what is the plank. Adding some wood grain on top. Now, this is a confusing way to draw for some people, so if this is challenging for you, just give it your best shot, and we're going to do it again in class together. The more you do it, the easier it gets, so that's why I want you to give it a try on your own. Really starting with that horizon line, vanishing point, and then some converging lines. If you don't get through the whole thing, that's okay. These telephone poles, the left side I'm making darker because it's further from the sun. And then I'm kind of blending it with my hand a little bit. So I kind of practice some of that value. Eventually, when we do this drawing, our final copy, you're going to pick the subject. So it might be a railroad, it might be a boardwalk, it might be a path through trees. You're going to decide. Oh, in the drawing right now, I'm just adding some grass and on the left of the railroad and on the right too. And the grass gets smaller as it moves back into space. Some of the pebbles in between the planks get smaller as they move back into space. So give it a try, and we'll talk about the final product in class. Good luck. Upload your work to Classroom when you're done. Make sure you take a good photo.